What's up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and many of you have reached out to the channel in regards to the endgame boss farm that people have been talking about for the last few days. You had a bunch of different questions. Now, I haven't been able to get footage until now, so I wanted to make sure I put a video together and answered as many as I could. Now, if you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well, and remember, we are currently having a giveaway of an Xbox Series X. To enter, all you need to do is subscribe here or follow on Twitter, and the winner will be announced on July 4th of this year. I do want to mention a few things as we begin. First of all, in this video, you will see what the end boss looks like. However, I will not give away any story spoilers. And secondly, you can only do this farm if you own the Worldslayer DLC. Otherwise, it will not be available. With that being said, let's get into the farming method itself. So we are at the final boss in the trials, and what I do is I typically just join a random group. Wherever they are in the trial, I join them, and then we cruise along and finish towards the end. Now you can see here, once you've beaten the boss, you have your choice of one of 3 legendary apocalyptic pieces of gear. Choose whichever one you want, and not only that, you'll see in a moment that after defeating the boss, you also get a ton of loot. We're talking legendaries, resources, a bunch of really good stuff. Now, for those of you that may not know, in the trials, when you start at the beginning, you have 3 attempts to make it through. So ideally, you get to the end boss with those 3 attempts left. Now, I'm in a random group now, and I notice that the group leader is going to continue on and doesn't want to do the farming method. Therefore, what I'm going to do at this point is open up my menu, return to the lobby. Now, what's great is that you have those 3 attempts that I just mentioned. This will count as one of those attempts. However, when I load back into the game, I will be put right outside the main throne room, which means I don't have to go through the entire trial again to get to the boss, and I do have a few more attempts in order to beat them and actually get all of that great loot. Now, at this point, you do have a few options. You can either play the thing solo, or if you can't solo it like me, I still cannot solo this thing. You can add a friend to the group, which I did, and a huge shout out to fellow content creator and friend Kamikaze Von Doom. You'll see him in this footage. He completely carried me through that boss fight. There's no way I would have been able to beat this boss at this level with the gear that I have so far, but that's one of the main reasons I'm doing this farm, because you're getting amazing stuff. Now, at this point in the video, I'm going to show you a few more boss runs, then some of the loot I picked up. However, I do want to answer some of the most commonly asked questions. And the first one was, can people solo this? The answer is absolutely yes, and one thing I recommend is initially jump into the trials at a lower level. That way you can learn the layout of the different rooms, which really helps out when you're in a group. And as a solo player, you'll also learn that if you find certain spots in those rooms, all of the enemies come to you, which makes it much, much easier. Another question a lot of you had is, does it make sense to go straight to the throne room, just take the path that takes you directly there, or should you stop in each individual room and get the loot that's there as well? And it's really up to you. However, while you will be getting more loot if you do hit up the other rooms on the path to the main throne room, keep in mind you only have 3 attempts, so if you die, that does take one of the attempts from the boss at the end. Anyway, getting back to the footage, once the boss is taken out, you'll once again have the choice of picking a piece of gear that you want. Now, if you are the squad leader, when you go into your menu to return to lobby, make sure you go back as a group. That way you're giving the people in the group the opportunity to join you again as well. And as I start to wrap this video up, most of you know by now there are no shortages of ways to farm in this game for loot. And I used to do the monster hunts, things like that, and I will be putting out other videos in regards to farming for people who do not have this DLC. However, in my opinion, this is by far the best way to get great loot in the game in a really short amount of time. Now, I've heard of people soloing this thing in like 20-30 minutes. I'm not at that point, but what I do know is even if it takes me about 40 minutes or so to get through the thing, the amount of loot you get at the end is well worth your time. And not only that, it is high quality loot, so I strongly recommend you farm this spot as many times as you can. And keep in mind, as I say 30-40 minutes, I'm talking about the very beginning of the trial to get to the end of the throne room, not 30-40 minutes of farming that boss. That'll take you minutes like max. Like, you should be able to get through that pretty quick, or at least I could, because I had backup on my own. I probably would have gotten my ass kicked. But anyway, one more thing is, make sure again when you get back to that lobby, you go to continue game. Do not select a story point. Continue from where you were, and as you can see, once again, we are loaded right outside the throne room. With all that being said, my friends, I'm going to start to wrap this video up. However, as always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your amazing support of this channel and remind you, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know in the section down below and I will get back to you as quick as I can. Many of you have reached out asking me what are my thoughts of this DLC. Is it worth your money? Tomorrow on Sunday, which is I think the 3rd, I'm going to be putting out a video on my thoughts so far, answering questions, things like that, and hopefully you'll be able to check that video out and get some of your answers. On that note, I'm going to let the rest of the video play out. You'll see one more run, then you'll see some of the gear I picked up. However, like I mentioned at the beginning of this thing, if you happen to be new here, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button. If you enjoyed this, you could hit that like button as well, but most importantly, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.